Jake?
Yeah, I think we can start rolling. First, I just want to say I hope you don't hate me too much. Your muscles aren't too sore after all the workouts. Hope you're enjoying the workouts. And yeah, with the seminar tonight, it's going to be about 60 minutes. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff, but ultimately what you're going to grab from it is everything you need to know in terms of fitness and nutrition to achieve your goals in a safe, effective, and science-backed manner. So I think we'll start rocking and rolling. And if anyone wants to join in, then they can. Oh, there we go. We got another one. And all right.
So, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know everybody's busy, but we really are excited to bring you sort of the nuts and bolts of the best evidence when it comes to, body composition changes, whether it be weight loss is your goal or muscle gain is your goal. The information that's going to come out of this webinar will help you gather the information you need to achieve these goals. One of my biggest pet peeves with the whole fitness and nutrition industry is just how much crap there is out there on the market. Everybody is trying to sell you their theory, their product, their concept, and very few of the fitness and nutrition influencers that are out there in the social media actually have much knowledge about the evidence behind it. So the purpose of the next 60 minutes is just to give you guys the Coles Notes versions, what you actually need to know to achieve your goals. And we're super excited because we've been able to present this webinar to multiple different platforms, and we always hear great feedback that it's really helped people debunk all the myths that are there and give them the real information that they need, moving forward. So just again, a little bit about Jake and I and how this all came to be. I won't go into great detail because I know most of you know me, and many of you have now been introduced to Jake as well. But basically, you know me as a physician, obviously in Kempville. What you might not know about me is that I've always had a real passion and interest for fitness and nutrition that started back in my undergraduate degree when I majored in nutritional sciences at the University of Guelph. So fast forward, medical school, residency, I ended up getting pregnant and having babies during my medical school and residency. And just like so many working moms, I just stopped prioritizing myself. So I ended up, my youngest was 10 months old. I was 40 pounds heavier than I am now. I remember a moment when I was breastfeeding him. He was 10 months old, I was breastfeeding him, and I looked down at my legs and I didn't even recognize what I saw. And to be quite honest, I was just miserable. I was lacking energy. I was not feeling good about myself. My libido was in the tank. It was just terrible. Everything was just, my life wasn't going as well as it could be because I wasn't taking time to prioritize myself. So I decided at that moment in time, literally the light bulb went off, to start making myself a priority. I knew I had the information I needed about nutrition. I needed some help with a good fitness plan. And that's where Jake and I ended up connecting. And fast forward to years later, 40 pounds lost. It's been, 8, 9, well, more than that, over a decade now. I've kept the weight off. And now I just really love being able to bring the information to other people so that they can feel as empowered and as amazing with with all of this information and being able to put themselves first and prioritize themselves. So that's a little bit about our background and how things came to be. And it just really worked out well that I ended up finding a trainer like Jake, whose philosophies completely matched mine when it came to nutrition, and who was as focused on the evidence-based, principles of fitness and nutrition as I was. So that's how all of this came to be.
And so with that, our goal for this webinar, as you can see, is first and foremost to educate. And that's our goal with any client or member that we work with, is we want you to have all of the tools and to know exactly what the right information you need in order to achieve your goals. And through education, we want to inspire, knowing what you need to do. Okay, yeah, I can go and do this. I can achieve my goals. So from there, with that inspiration, you take action to ultimately achieve the results that you want to see with our program. So with that, we're going to talk today about the 3 components of successful fat loss. And I say successful fat loss because as Suzanne alluded to, there are lots of different programs and products that are marketed to mass media. One of the ones I heard from a member who just joined our Mom's First Movement today, the faster way to fat loss or something like that. There's a lot of quick fix solutions out there that ultimately do more harm than good. And in order to achieve the results that you want to achieve, the most important thing is that you achieve them in a way that is sustainable, and ultimately they'll last long term. And we do so through nutrition, fitness, and mindset, which are going to be the three things that we talk about today. But before we get to the goods, we want to talk a little bit and break down Nutrition 101 and the key terms that come with that. So the first term is, what is a calorie? We often hear the term calories. We often hear about how many calories are in the foods that we eat. And with that, calories are simply just a unit of energy, and the unit of energy we use to measure for our body's consumption. And so with calories, we have the calories that we intake, and then we also have the calories that we burn, which will have a large determining effect on our overall body composition. And so how do we intake calories? That's simply from macronutrients. And so with macronutrients, there are three main types, and these are the nutrients that our bodies consume in a large quantity on a daily basis. And so we have proteins, carbs, and fats. And proteins are known as the muscle macro. They are responsible for helping to repair muscle after a workout, but they also too have a variety of different functions in the human body, as I'm sure some of you are aware of. And protein is found in high quantities in things like meats, dairies, and supplements. And 1 gram of protein equates to 4 calories in terms of energy. And then with that, we have carbs, which are our immediate fuel source. Carbs are found in higher quantities in things like fruits, legumes, and grains. And carbohydrates, much like protein, have 4 calories per gram. And then we have fats, and fats provide long-term energy. They can be found in higher quantities in oils, nuts, cheeses, avocados, and foods such as that. And 1 gram of fat, very important to note, equates to 9 calories per gram. So very important to be conscious when consuming foods that are higher in fat, to understand that. And then also important to take account alcohol as well. Alcohol, unfortunately, is not calorie free. Alcohol has 7 calories per gram. So that's kind of the basis of what makes up overall consumption for our bodies. And we're going to get into a little bit more on that with the key to fat loss calorie deficit.
So despite what you will read on the internet or splashed across social media, there's really only one way to lose weight, and that's by achieving a caloric deficit over a length of time. Weight loss is the result of you consuming less calories than you burn, or calories in being less than your calories out. It always comes down to the simple equation, without exception. If you eat less calories than you burn, you will lose weight. End of story. This is as non-negotiable as the fact that the earth is round and not flat. Simultaneously, if you want to gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. You need to eat more calories than you burn. Again, non-negotiable. It's simple math. There is absolutely no other way to lose weight. No magic diet, no magic pills, no magic formula that will lead to weight loss unless they involve a caloric deficit. And that's why it's so important for you to start understanding the concept of your own caloric budget. So I like to think of fat like financial debt. If you go shopping without any idea of how much is in your bank account or the price of the items that you are purchasing, you will easily accumulate debt, i.e. in the form of credit cards. Likewise, if you eat without having any idea of how many calories you burn in a day, your daily caloric budget, and without any understanding of how many calories are in the food you eat, you will accumulate fat. So what makes up our daily caloric budget? This is known as your total daily energy expenditure, and it's made up of 4 main categories. You've got your basal metabolic rate. This is the energy that your body burns to perform the functions necessary to life while at rest. So this is the calories that your body burns to simply breathe, to digest your food, to do basic metabolic activities that are required to survive while at rest. And it comprises about 70% of your total daily energy expenditure or your total daily caloric budget. Then you got your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is the amount of energy you burn from activity outside of formal exercise. So things like the calories you would burn while you're blow drying your hair, doing the laundry, walking from your car into the office, things like that. It comprises a total of about 15% of your daily caloric intake. And interestingly enough, this is one part of our daily caloric budget that we're really seeing is taking a hit with so many people working from home. We are moving less since this pandemic hit. We are no longer many of us are no longer walking to our car or walking to the office. We're simply working at home. And we are noticing that, there is a significant decrease in the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, and something to take into account. So next, you've got your thermic effect of food. So these are the calories that you burn simply by digesting the food you eat. And it comprises of about 10% of your daily caloric burn. Interesting enough, you'll hear Jake and I talking a lot about protein. Protein is an extremely important macronutrient, but it also is the one macronutrient where your body burns more calories simply by digesting it. You will burn more calories digesting the protein that you take in versus the carbs or the fats. And lastly, you've got exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is the amount of energy that you burn from your formal exercise in a day, from your actual workouts. And for the average person, it only comprises about 5% of your total daily energy expenditure. It really isn't that much. And that's why we always talk about the fact that you'll hear us say you can't out-exercise a bad diet. And it's hard to burn a significant amount of calories in your workouts alone. Now, obviously, if you're a professional athlete where you're training 8-9 hours a day, this is different. But for the average person, it's about 5% of the total daily energy expenditure. So understanding what your daily caloric budget is and the amount of calories that you consume in a day really is the key to weight loss success. The only way out of debt is to save money. Likewise, the only way to lose fat is to save calories.
So another very important number to kind of take into account is 3,500 calories. 3,500 calories is estimated to be 1 pound of body weight. And if we take that 3,500 and we divide by 7, that works out to 500 calories a day. So by this math, if you were to burn 500 calories more than you intake, you would lose about 1 pound a week. And one of my favorite quotes comes from Dr. Lane Norton, who's someone that Suzanne and I have both learned a lot from, in his video titled How to Lose Weight and Keep It Off, which we'll post later in the group. And there are so many amazing take homes in this video, but one of my favorite is the slower you lose weight, the more likely you are to keep it off. And so therefore, we often recommend with clients that they aim for about 0.5 pound per week in terms of weight loss, which many people will then say to me, or many clients have said to me, like 0.5 pound a week, that's not very much. But over the course of a year, that's 25 pounds. And as I rebuttal to those clients, is 25 pounds of body weight is life-changing. So with that, we will talk a little bit more about protein and the importance of protein. And protein is important for a few reasons. First and foremost, it's going to maximize muscle retention. So when you lose weight, you're likely to lose a bit of muscle, but the more protein that you have in your diet, to a certain extent, which we'll talk about as well, is going to help you to maintain muscle mass, which is super, super important for longevity, for perhaps aesthetics, and also to just for overall health. The other reason why protein is important is satiation. So the more protein you consume, the more full you're going to be, again, within reason. But that's important because it's going to help to prevent you from getting hungry, ultimately causing you to consume less calories. Thermic effect of feeding, as Suzanne mentioned, it takes more energy for our body to break down protein than it does carbs and fats. And also to, again, with that muscle retention, the more muscle you have in your body, the higher your basal metabolic rate is going to be, which in terms of energy takes up the most energy throughout our day. So again, by having more protein in our diet, we're going to take advantage of all 4 of these things, which will make a big difference in the long term when it comes to caloric deficit.
Okay, so probably many of you have heard over the span of your, fitness and nutrition attempts to lose weight over time. There's so many theories out there. I mean, how many times have you heard people saying keto, you must do keto, it's the only way to lose weight. These detox diets, you have to try these juices, paleo, carnivore, high fat, low carb. I mean, there's a million different types out there of diets, and it's easy to get confused. And it's really easy to not understand what the best diet is for you. So what we want to do is right now is tell you what the actual science shows, because it's the science that really matters. And really what the science tells us, this is by far my favorite slide. So if you guys were to pay attention to one slide in the whole webinar, this is the take home part that I think is the most valuable out of most webinar. Despite what the media and fitness influencers that you'll see all over social media, Instagram, all of it, or your friends and family might tell you, studies show that there's actually no single best diet for fat loss as long as total calories and protein intake are equal. So a huge study done by the International Society of Sports Nutrition in 2017, they completed a critical analysis of all the literature, so all the studies regarding the effects of different diet types on body composition. And they found that there is not one diet that is superior to the next when total calories and the amount of protein are the same. A similar, more recent systematic review, which was done in the British Medical Journal in April just of 2020, also compiled the data of 121 different trials comparing 14 popular diets with varying macronutrient distributions and their effects on weight loss. So they looked at all of these. They looked at the intermittent fasting, they looked at the keto, they looked at the paleo, they looked at the low carb, high fat, all of it. And they looked at the results, what the results were on weight loss and cardiovascular health. And again, they found that there was no diet that was better than the next as long as the calories and the protein were equal. So keto isn't better than high carb. High carb isn't better than low carb. Intermittent fasting isn't better than eating morning to night when it comes to fat loss. So I like to use Emily just to demonstrate, an example of what the evidence shows. We know that for Emily to achieve a caloric deficit, she needs to be eating 1,500 calories per day. So we can have Emily eat 500 calories of protein per day, leaving her with 1,000 calories left over to divvy up between carbohydrates and fats. This is Emily's equation. Emily could try keto. So what does that mean? It means that she basically takes all of her calories, or the majority of her calories, and eats them as, her 500 from protein, and the majority comes from fat, with very few from carbs. She could also try a low carb, high fat, where she takes 1,500 calories, a day total. 500 of those come from protein, most come from fat, and a little bit come from carbs. She may try intermittent fasting, where she takes her whole 1,500 calories. She gets her 500 of calories from protein. She divvies the rest up between the carbs and fat, but she only eats, let's say, between noon and 8 p.m. at night. Or she may even try a high carb, low fat diet, where she eats her 1,500 calories a day, 500 come from the protein, the majority come from carbs, and less from fat. Regardless of which of these diets she chooses, Emily will lose the same amount of weight over a period of time. One diet is not better to the next. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for each and every one of you? It means that we can design our diets to fit our individual preferences and lifestyle, which means they will be sustainable long-term. If you love breakfast, eat breakfast. If life is crazy and hectic in the morning and eating later in the day, or intermittent fasting works for you, then go for it. If you love carbs and feel miserable without them, then eat the carbs. If carbs don't agree with you and you don't want to eat the carbs, then don't eat the carbs. As long as you're in a caloric deficit and eating a sufficient amounts of protein, you will lose fat. So why is this information not more widely circulated in the media? Well, it's not because it's new information, and it's not that there isn't plenty of science to back it up. It's quite simply because this information can't be packaged as a magic formula to sell. It means that every author or trainer who's trying to sell you their perfect solution to weight loss really has nothing to sell at all. So we'll talk a lot about diet sustainability. So what I was just saying about, the perfect diet is the one that you can sustain for you. Well, the reason why diet sustainability is so important is that it's important that when we take the weight off, that we keep it off. Diets that involve severe deprivation or deviation from our normal life inevitably will lead to weight regain once you stop following them. It's the classic yo-yo cycle of weight loss and regain, and it's something we refer to often as weight cycling. So claims have actually been made that weight cycling, so losing the weight, then gaining it back again, losing the weight, then gaining it back again, may actually be more detrimental to your health than simply remaining overweight all along. Scientific studies have showed that actually there is some varying results about this, but they are becoming more conclusive to show that weight loss and then regain can actually increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, hypertension, and metabolic syndrome. It's actually worse than not losing the weight to begin with. So why is the weight cycling phenomenon so common? Why do so many of us lose the weight, then gain it back, lose the weight, then gain it back? Well, despite that we've evolved in so many ways, our genetics still stand strong from the caveman days when weight loss was actually seen as vulnerability. The entire time we're losing weight, our body is actually designing a defense mechanism so that when the diet ends, it's ready to gain the fat back and prevent you from losing it again. So if we can just flip forward to the rat picture, Jake. Yeah. So again, I love this. This is another really important key take-home slide. So this image is a summary of a yo-yo dieting study performed by Bronwell and his team. Bronwell is a researcher that did some of the best studies, in my opinion, in the fat loss world. And they demonstrated that rats would regain weight post-diet twice as fast as when they lost it. Then during the second cycle of the caloric restriction, so if you notice here that, the rat is put on a caloric restriction, it loses the weight. Then it goes back to eating the way it was before, and it regains the weight twice as fast. Then when it's put back into the next caloric restriction, they lose the weight at half the original rate despite consuming the same amount of calories. Then when they go back to eating normal again, they actually regain the weight 3 times faster. So what this is showing us is every time we restrict and then go back to a caloric surplus, our body is actually designed to put on the weight and then some. And this is what we are trying to prevent when it comes to helping you figure out what your best diet is for weight loss. We want to help you sustain the weight loss by helping prevent your body's mechanisms from wanting to put on the weight again.
So to reiterate on this point, does it sound familiar at all? You have someone who goes on a restrictive diet, they cut down, they've lost 10 pounds, they've lost 20 pounds in a given amount of time, whatever it might be, only to end that diet, gain that weight back, and then some. And then so what happens is time goes on and, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to try and lose weight again. I'll go back on that diet that once worked for me. They go back on that diet that once worked, and it's that much harder this time around to lose the weight. This is not in that person's head. It is due to simple human physiology. And it's because as you are losing weight, your body builds that defense mechanism. So what we want to really show you is what it boils down to in order of importance is first and foremost sustainability. And that's what we're going to talk about and hammer home over the course of the next 12 weeks, is helping you to find that routine and that diet that you can create that is ultimately going to be sustainable while allowing you to achieve your goals. And we're going to dive a lot deeper into this topic over the course of the few weeks and help you with different tips and tricks to create sustainability. And then the second most important thing is that calorie deficit. So when you are tracking, what you want to ensure is over the course of your weeks, you're in a deficit. So slowly but surely you're achieving your goals. And that goes for those looking to lose weight. And then protein intake is also important for the reasons that I mentioned previously. And then there's all of that other stuff. And again, you hear it so often, and all it takes is one trip to Walmart to see all the different magazines that talk about this new magic solution, or how many times you should be eating per day, or what you should have for breakfast, or what you should have before your workout, what supplements you should be taking. And in the grand scheme of things, this is far, far less important than sustainability, caloric deficit, and protein intake. And this is why this this recipe is not mass marketed, because ultimately there's no quick fix or magic solution. But focusing on the top of that pyramid and these little tricks or whatever they might be, magic solutions, it's only going to take away from what is actually important. But ultimately, different products and different programs are marketed this way because that's what differentiates them. But if you really want to achieve results, start with finding your sustainable solution, work on building a calorie deficit over time, and focus on getting more and more protein as you go. So the nutrition recipe for success starts with, in terms of, and I talked about this in the MyFitnessPal video, calories. You want to take your goal body weight and times that by 12. And that's what we want you starting with in terms of caloric consumption per day in order to achieve your goals. The second thing is protein. And with protein, what we're going to do is we're going to take your goal body weight and we're going to times that by 1 gram per pound body weight. So those two numbers are the key to focus on. And then sustainable dieting is what we also too call flexible dieting, where you can have flexibility in your diet. You can enjoy some of the foods that you love to enjoy without feeling guilty. You don't have to go on this super clean, ultra lean diet in order to achieve your results. Because ultimately what tends to happen is when people get too strict and too restrictive, their body will rebound and they create these habits that aren't sustainable long term. And as Suzanne mentioned, there's a whole host of negative consequences that come with that.
So again, I can't reiterate enough. If you're not enjoying your life while you're losing the weight or gaining the muscle, whatever your goals are, if you're not enjoying your life, if you can't see yourself sticking with this for the rest of your life, stop doing what you're doing. That is not the diet for you. We need to find something different. Okay. Gone are the days of the quick fixes. Gone are the days of I'm going to deprive myself and restrict myself for a period of time and lose the weight. And then I'm going to go back and eat the way I did before and gain all the weight again. That's what we need to stop. So again, at any point, whenever I'm coaching, patients or clients, always when they're achieving their weight loss, we always have to stop and say, are you enjoying your life? Do you feel deprived? Do you feel restricted? If you do, we have to make some tweaks, because the way that you are living now as you lose the weight is the way you're going to live for the rest of your life. So we need to make sure you're enjoying it. And when it comes to diet sustainability, we talk about the POSE acronym. And this helps people, it helps us figure out what sort of diet, what your diet's going to look like for you that you're going to be able to sustain. So POSE stands for, the P is for preferences. Obviously, your diet has to be full of foods that you enjoy. There's nothing that drives me crazier than when trainers or nutritionists set out meal plans. And let's say it's full of, you're allowed to eat egg whites and chicken and rice and broccoli, and that is it. And, people don't even, their clients don't even like egg whites or chicken or rice or broccoli, but they're being told to eat that because that's the only way you're going to achieve what you're going to do. Your diet, as you're losing the weight, needs to be full of the foods you like and avoid the foods you don't like. That's the way it has to be. Otherwise, you're not going to stick with it. Obviously, organization helps. So just like anything, failing to plan is planning to fail. So for some people, organization means meal prep. I know Karen alluded to that, making all our meals on a Sunday, getting the week ready. That works really well for some people. Some people like myself, I struggle with that, finding a chunk of time to do that. So I'm all about finding the meals that are really quick and can be made, high protein, calorie-wise meals that can be made on the fly, super quick ones. But whatever it is that works for you, we always like to encourage our clients, try something, try the meal prep, try different things to see what works for them. For the S in POSE is the support system. So that's obviously having a group of people around you that are supporting you. This group in of itself, the KDHFC, sharing your ideas with coworkers, what's working for you, what's not, recipes, all of those kind of things. Support systems have been scientifically proven to increase and improve results when it comes to weight loss. Using your support systems at home, getting your family involved, getting your partners involved, letting them know, obviously is incredibly important. And last but not least in the POSE is environment, setting your environment up for success. Obviously, if you know that having gummy worms in the house, you are going to nail that 10-pound Costco, bag size of gummy bears in 1 week if it's there. Just try not to have the gummy bears there. Set yourself up for success as much as possible by having the foods that meet your goals and help you reach your goals, having them plentiful around the house, and trying to keep the more high calorie or calorie dense foods that require a lot of willpower to avoid, try not having them around.
And so flexible dieting, we've talked about it. What does that mean? Suzanne and I have worked with many clients who have achieved success and achieved transformation and achieved sustainable weight loss in different ways. And for some, it's 5 small meals per day, whereas for others, it's 2 big meals. For some, it's all about that Sunday meal prep, whereas others are like Suzanne, mastered on the go eating. Some love to eat meat. We also have clients who have achieved significant weight loss as vegetarians. Some are intermittent fasters. They don't like to have breakfast. They eat throughout a window during the day, whereas some can't possibly live without breakfast. Flexible dieting means A, determining your calorie intake, B, determining your protein intake, and then from there, eating the foods you love and the foods you enjoy to meet your targets. Flexible dieting does not have you cut out any certain foods. Avoid food avoidance. So long as you're staying within your numbers, then you're good. You can create a diet that's flexible, that's based on your preferences and food choices while hitting your numbers and ultimately achieving your goals. So this is obviously something we really believe in and something that we preach and something that we've made work for ourselves in order to achieve some of our goals. So as a trainer, people often assume that I have this ultra clean, super lean diet, and they're amazed when I tell them that, yes, I love to eat pizza, and yes, I love to have beers while watching hockey with my friends. Pre-pandemic, obviously. And yes, I go to McDonald's every now and then. And this is because A, I'm human, just like everyone else, but B, I understand the concepts of flexible dieting and how to create a unique diet that works for me, that aligns with my goals. And there's been a few game-changing things for me in creating a flexible diet and learning my different habits and what worked for me through tracking. But one of the big things is you really have to experiment with your own diet, again, to find what works for you. And we've done a lot of experimenting ourselves and a lot of experimenting with clients. So we'll share some of these things that we've learned, but there's been a few things that have really rung true. And one, tracking is the key to reaching goals. And for myself, I've done weight gain goals. I've done weight loss goals. I've fluctuated upwards of 25 pounds, but when I really wanted to target my goals, it came down to tracking. The other thing is, I know that I like to eat far more on weekends than I do during the week. And that is something that I used to think was really bad until I learned more about flexible dieting and realized that that's okay. The other thing is I plan my intake around protein. So I usually have anywhere from 3 to 5 meals a day, but I try and get a specific amount of protein in each meal so that over the course of the day, I hit my daily target, which can be upwards of 150 grams. And I also too tend to eat really late. So I haven't had dinner yet. And a lot of people think, well, you haven't had dinner, you're going to go to sleep and all your dinner is going to turn to fat. That's not the way it works. It comes down to calories in versus calories out, as Suzanne alluded to. So I tend to eat 50 to 70% of my daily caloric intake after 8 p.m. And that's just what works for me. And the other thing is I've learned that slower is better. Faster is not the way to go. And I failed at that a couple times, so I won't get into, but I've built muscle, I've become leaner. I've done so without being ultra restrictive and still enjoying the things that I love, like pizza, like fuzzy peaches, like chocolate, like wine, etc. And the reason for that is understanding the concepts of flexible dieting, which is really what we want to help you guys with this webinar and our program.
And what I love about flexible dieting is just like what Jake alluded to, it takes away the concept of bad foods. So much of our diet culture really is endorsing unhealthy relationships with food. So, what I love about flexible dieting is that it basically, no food is bad. It all comes with a calorie and protein intake, but it's nothing is bad. eating the donut does not derail your diet. It does not ruin the whole day. It's a choice you made that comes with calories that you may have to balance out and make different options later in the day. But no food is off limit and no food is bad. And really, one thing that's so important to me and what I value most about our program is helping people have a better relationship with their bodies, but also with food. And really, the light bulb moment for me when it came to flexible dieting was actually back when I was in my first year med school. I was about to get married. I was just like every other bride. I started working with the trainer. And despite the fact I had all this education and I knew more, I got suckered into her whole quick fix. And, she had me on my wedding prep diet, and that involved cans of tuna, a lot of chicken, no carbs. Like basically, it was just, I don't even know how I survived it. But I remember one day I was leaving my medical lecture and I was starving. And all I had with me in the car was an apple. And I was so hungry. I grabbed the apple and I started eating the apple. And I actually felt guilty about eating an apple. This trainer had morphed me into the fact that fruit and carbs and everything were so bad. I felt guilty eating an apple. It was obscene. And I had a light bulb moment driving home from my med school lecture that day going, something is wrong. You literally, your mind has gotten to a place where you think this apple is bad for you. You need to snap out. And I did. I fired the trainer the next day and I started to, again, reintroduce myself to all of the concepts of nutrition that I knew about the calorie deficit, about the protein, and started to adopt my own flexible dieting before flexible dieting even had a term. This was many, many years ago. And 20 years ago, actually. Crazy. I'm old. So yeah, I basically put the principles, and that's what I love most about it. That's what I love about flexible dieting. No more talk of, this is bad for me, or this is terrible, or this. No food is bad. We need to avoid food avoidance. They all just come with certain caloric and protein and macro ratios, and they're choices we make, but none of them are bad. Obviously, we want to choose the healthy ones whenever we can, but none of them are bad.
And so with that, what are your steps from here? Again, establishing your calorie intake. So start with that number, and by no means is this number set in stone, but your goal, body weight times 12. And then from there you track and you analyze, and then you make adjustments if necessary. And we're here to help you with that. Also to determine your protein intake, so your goal body weight times it by 1. If that seems really high in the beginning, if you track your intake and you get 60 grams in a day, and with this calculation, you're asked to achieve, let's say 130 grams in a day, well, you're not meant to change that overnight, but slowly over time with the teachings, with the learning, with tracking and recording the data will help you to increase your protein intake. And so that brings me to number 3, which is track that intake. Super, super important. Compare the data. Are you seeing the changes that you want to see? So typically we get clients and members to track for about 2 weeks, compare the data, see what's happening, changes in weight, changes the way you feel, changes in your clothes. If things are going well, okay, great, keep on keeping on. If things aren't going well, then we make changes, we make adjustments, we come up with new habits and continue to implement and to experiment with your diet. And so those are the steps that we want you to take. Posted today about MyFitnessPal, set that up. Link it to your Trainerize, so that from there, the beautiful thing that I love about Trainerize and was a game changer for me is I had people coming in for their one-time in-person training sessions, once a week, twice a week, whatever it was, but then they would leave and it was just hope for the best. With Trainerize, everything is there. Everything is stored, all the data, your nutrition, your workouts, and then your body stats, progress photos, and everything like that. So you get a full-fledged approach or a full scope of what's happening with your health and fitness efforts. And with that, we can, again, continue to adjust and monitor. So with that, we're going to transition now to fitness and fitness 101. And when it comes to exercise, I often get the question, what exercise is best? What type of exercise is best? And I've ran into people who believe that fat loss is only related to the workouts that they're doing, and they blame their lack of success on losing weight, not on what they're eating, but solely on the exercise program that they are currently working with. And there's often this confusion as to, what gym should I join? What type of workout should I be sweating more? And whatever it is, should it be more cardio based? Should it be more resistance based? And with that, what we want to show you is, again, much like your diet, it comes down to choosing your preference and coming up with your own unique solution. So Suzanne's going to start. My mouse is very touchy. Suzanne's going to break down some common myths that we often encounter with clients when it comes to exercise.
So it's a really common belief that in order to lose weight, we must do cardio. We must focus on aerobic exercises. If you walk into any commercial gym after New Year's, you'll find the cardio machines packed with the clients who have weight loss resolutions, while the weight section is full of those who are looking to bulk up. The need to focus on aerobic activities to lose weight has been a huge misconception in the general public, and especially by women. Numerous studies have been completed over the years that show that when participants are put on the same calorie restricted diet, that cardiovascular training and resistance training result in similar amounts of weight loss. So if you put them on the same amount of diet and put them in, put one on a treadmill and one on the strength training regime, they will actually have the same amount of weight loss. However, when it comes to fat loss and muscle preservation, so losing fat but keeping our muscle, resistance training shows superiority. One of my favorite studies showing the benefit to strength training was done by Briner and his team. So what they did is they compared resistance training to aerobics training on changes on lean body mass and your basal metabolic rates. So a period of 12 weeks, they took participants and they were divided into two groups. One solely did strength training workouts, while the other one solely did aerobics workouts, solely did cardio. And they were both put on the same calorically restricted diet. And it was a very restrictive diet. I think it was like 900 calories a day, but they wanted to see what the results showed. So at the end of the 12 weeks, the resistance trained group lost on average 2 kilograms more body fat than the cardio group and lost no muscle and preserved their basal metabolic rate. They preserved, and like I said, when we were talking back at the beginning about our caloric deficit, if we preserve our basal metabolic rate, we keep our daily caloric budget higher. So again, the group that did the resistance training, the strength training program, lost 2 kilograms more of fat, lost no muscle, and preserved their BMR. Where the participants who did the cardio only exercises lost less body fat, but more importantly, and this is crazy, they lost upwards to 4 kilograms of muscle, which then dropped their BMR, their basal metabolic rate, by 13%. So the group that lost the weight on the cardio machines ended up with a lower basal metabolic rate. They ended up with a lower caloric budget. So to keep that weight off going forward will be harder for them because they will be able to eat less. So that's why we feel it's hugely important, particularly for women, to understand the importance of strength training as part of our fat loss regime, because it's so important for us to be able to preserve our muscle as we lose the fat in order to preserve our metabolism. And this is more important as we get older and we start to, approach menopause. Because let's be honest, what happens with menopause? As we hit menopause and we lose the estrogen, our basal metabolic rate, our metabolism does naturally slow down. As our estrogen levels drop, we see a decline in our BMR. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, we also find that with the drop of estrogen, also the breakdown of fat starts to slow down. It's harder for our bodies to break down fat once we start to lose our estrogen. On top of that, when we stop releasing estrogen in our ovaries, not only is it harder for us to break down the fat, but as soon as we eat more calories than we burn, so as soon as we're in a caloric surplus, our body naturally wants to put the fat on to our visceral area around our abdominal region. So this is naturally what our body is predisposed to do as we lose our estrogen, ladies. We drop our metabolism, we burn less fat, and we build the fat around our visceral area on our abdomen easier. Now, does this mean all is lost at menopause? No, not at all. It means that as we approach menopause and as we go through menopause and even after menopause, we just really have to focus on making sure we keep our muscle mass up. We have to make sure that strength training is our focus along with our caloric deficit in order to preserve our metabolism, in order to help prevent further fat gain in that visceral area around our abdomen moving forward.
And so one of the questions that I often encounter and have been defending for years is, well, I don't want to get bulky. And the reality is you cannot get bulky so long as you remain in a caloric deficit. When you lose weight, as I mentioned, you're going to lose a little bit of fat, or hopefully a lot of bit of fat, but a little bit of muscle at the same time. But if you maintain that caloric deficit while continuing to lift weights, that's going to play an overall determining effect on how much fat is lost versus how much muscle is lost. And this is the key. And as you see in this transformation here, this client was calorie restricted diet, tracking her macros, resistance training 4 to 5 days a week, and playing her favorite sport 2 to 3 times a week. And her results were pretty incredible. The concern with bulkiness often comes with two scenarios. And one is, well, I saw this really muscular, strong lady, perhaps on the internet, and I don't want to look that way. And if you don't want to look that way, then that's totally okay. But chances are she does, and she's worked really hard and put in years and years to get there. Building muscle, particularly for women, doesn't happen overnight, and nor does getting bulky. So long as you remain in that caloric deficit, or you monitor your caloric intake and adjust your goals, you have nothing to fear. And the other scenario is, well, my friend joined this gym, or my friend joined this program and she started lifting heavier and she gained weight. And that's totally possible. That can happen. But it's also too very likely that with your friend, they weren't monitoring their diet, or this person was not monitoring their diet. And with that, their nutrition intake was ultimately what contributed to their results, more so than actually lifting heavier weights. In order to grow muscle, you need a combination of nutrition, resistance exercise, anabolic hormones, and most of all, time. It's a long-term, tedious process that does not happen overnight. And if you ever find yourself getting to a point where you're happy with the muscle mass that you have, then you can always change up that nutrition and that training recipe accordingly.
So just again, we wanted to debunk some myths when it comes to fitness as well, because there is a lot of bad information out there. And one of the main myths is that really high intensity interval training is the magic bullet for weight loss. And you'll hear this expression, the HIIT expression, a lot. It's a popular buzzword in the fitness world right now. It's a form of high intensity exercise where you give 100% of effort for intervals of time, followed by short recovery periods. The alternative to HIIT is a steady state endurance training, which involves low or moderate level intensity. So things like going for a long, walk or jog, run, swim, those are considered, the more moderate steady state. Well, there's a lot of gym franchises out there that have adopted the high intensity interval training and are marketing it as the optimal way to lose weight. And despite their claims, there actually isn't much scientific evidence to back them up when you compare the two. Multiple studies have compared the two forms of exercise, so HIIT versus the steady state endurance exercise, and they found that interval training actually offered no reliable advantage over steady state endurance training for fat loss. When energy expenditure is equal, they are both equally effective. Again, after we're talking about all these calories in, calories out, this shouldn't surprise anybody. In other words, burning the same amount of calories in less time with HIIT or in more time during steady state lower intensity interval training results in the same amount of fat loss. So once again, the science, the evidence is telling us to do what works for us as individuals and what we can sustain long term. HIIT obviously offers the advantage of saving time because of the higher intensity exercise results in an increased calorie burn over a shorter period of time. Lower intensity steady state exercises like your walking, your swimming, or light jogging often results in less impact on the body, making them easier on our joints. But it does take longer to burn the same amount of calories. So again, the end story is to all of you, choose what you enjoy, what feels good for your body, and what fits into your life, and you will achieve the results you want. One isn't better than the other. So another really common myth is the whole fasted cardio results in increased fat burn. So, for those of you, we hear this all the time. You hear about people, wanting to wake up in the morning and get their workout in before they eat or have anything in their belly because they think that they're going to burn more fat. And this became popular probably about close to almost a decade ago, when there was a study that did show that if you were to get up and work out on an empty stomach, so without anything to eat or drink, so in a fasted state, you actually will burn more fat for a period of time after your workout. So that study was released, and everybody, trainers all around, started telling everyone, work out in the morning. Again, that same trainer that had me hating the apple also had me feeling like if I didn't do my workout first thing in the morning, then there was no point in doing it at all, because my fat burn had all, gone to crap the rest of the day. Well, that study has since been replaced by a lot of other better studies that actually have now looked at the amount of fat you burn over the course of 24 hours after your workout. So what they've shown now is if you wake up and you work out in a fasted state, yes, you will burn more fat for the first few hours after your workout, but then later on in the day, you burn less fat. If you work out and you have something to eat or drink in the morning and then you do your workout, you'll burn less fat during the exercise and right after, but later in the day, you'll actually burn more fat. Over 24 hours, the amount of fat burn is the same. So again, and this is what I love about the science is telling us to do what feels right. If, getting up and working out on an empty stomach makes you feel better, by all means do that. If getting up and having something to eat or drink makes you feel like have more energy during your workout, makes you feel like you can lift heavier, then that's okay too. It does not affect your fat burn over the 24-hour period of time. It is the exact same whether you do the workout fasted or not.
And so this is one of my favorite Instagram social media posts of all time. Any workout can make you sore, any workout can make you sweat, any workout can make you tired, but not every workout can make you better. And it really strikes a chord with me because when I first got into the fitness industry, I started working at this gym, and there wasn't um, there wasn't a lot of science behind this gym. It was fitness franchises were really new, and this business owner transitioned into this uh, great idea and great concept, but the training style and the training methods itself were subpar. And I used to train hockey players, and uh, our whole goal and the way we were taught as trainers through this gym was to just make people tired, make them sweat, make them exhausted. And I actually had this goal of seeing how many of these hockey players we could get to puke in a summer. And so with that, you'll see part of the reason why we're so passionate about the information we're giving you today is because we've done things the wrong way, and we want to teach people how to do them the right way. And so with that, you're going to see with the training program that you're given, my goal for each and every individual is to work with the different workouts in there to come up with your unique training solution that fits not only your skill level, but your time availability, and ultimately your goals. And when it comes to training, you want to train smarter, not necessarily harder. And so smart training, what that entails is ultimately a mix of compound exercises. So you got your squats, your deadlifts, your lunges, your bridges, your push, your pulls. Then you got your assistance exercises. So things like your curls, glute kickbacks, whatever it might be. And you'll see a variety of all these things in your program. You want to choose a training program that aligns with your goals. So if you have a more lower body focus, you want to do more lower body workouts, more upper body focus, more upper body workouts, whatever that might be. But one of the key factors is building strength over time. The app will record your personal best for you and show you as you are doing that and as you work your way through. And also my workouts are structured in order to help you do so. You also want to add a little bit of variety. So you're going to see the workouts change up over the course of the 12 weeks because we want to prevent, and also too, we want to prevent strength plateaus. And you want to keep it simple and ultimately to keep it fun. So my training recipe for any client, it comes down to try 3 to 5 resistance workouts per week in order to see optimal results. You can do less, but it's going to be more maintenance mode for the most part. If you do more, you do run the risk of potentially inhibiting muscle growth because there's too much damage going on, or ultimately running into overuse injuries. So 3 to 5 is kind of that sweet spot in working to get stronger through those 3 to 5 workouts. Even if you're starting with body weight, work to build up on top of that, and then perhaps slowly it'll be dumbbells. Cardio is not your primary vehicle for fat loss. As we've talked about, cardio will be great for your heart. and also too for your mind, having fun, playing sports, going on walks, whatever it might be. And that can be anywhere from one, could be set up to 7 times a week, really. But just again, remember with cardio, what I don't like to see, and what Suzanne doesn't like to see, and what we don't preach is these super long cardio sessions in order to burn off last night's dessert or whatever it might be. Cardio should be more so for the fun of it and for the health aspects. And going outside, as we've probably learned more so in the past 11 months than ever, is really important for your mind. And when you make that connection between resistance training, cardio, and just working to help improve not only your physical aspect, the mental aspect will come with that as well. So we're going to transition now into mindset, which is perhaps the most important section of all, and give you a lot of the tips and tricks we've learned through working with our clients.
And again, the mindset, so reframing the way we're going to tackle our view and our goals of weight loss is so, so critical. After years of coaching patients and clients to make health and lifestyle changes, I'd have to say that the all or nothing mentality is the number one obstacle that holds most people back and is the biggest detriment to their success. So question, does this sound familiar to any of you? You join a program, you set a start date, and you commit to go all in. You tell yourself that perfection is needed to reach your goals, and so nothing less than perfection is acceptable. You're not going to miss a workout. You will never cheat on your diet because this time you're committed. Well, then days, weeks, or even months, kudos if you kept it going for that long, pass by and you find that perfection is impossible. Life gets busy, so you miss the workout or stop tracking the food. The holidays hit, and so you enjoy more meals out, more indulgences with your friends. Wine, treats, desserts, Christmas is a perfect example. Because you're no longer perfect, you consider yourself a failure. You give up altogether, adding this last attempt to a long list of failed attempts that you've made in the past. Once again, you've fallen off the wagon and the disappointment and frustration hits you hard. And then you believe that, falling off the wagon means that you don't deserve to get back on, or that you need to find an entirely new wagon and start a brand new journey towards your goals. You need to find a new program, a new solution. Well, this all or nothing mentality is the worst form of self-deprecation. And it's one that we all have to end in order to live our most fulfilled lives. So what Jake and I challenge you to do is to switch up your mindset altogether. What if we start to see the wagon as something that you can never fall off of? You just simply change the speed at which it travels. So if you stick to the nutrition and you stick to the workouts, the wagon just starts to move a little faster towards your destination. If you have a more indulgent day or days or week with more food or drink and less exercise, the wagon slows down a bit, but it keeps moving. You are always on the wagon and you are always in control of it. The choices that you make will simply determine the speed at which it travels. You don't work out one day, the wagon ride gets a little longer. You eat healthy, the wagon speeds up and the ride gets a little faster. But you're always heading in the direction of a healthier, fitter life. We can guarantee you that if you can change your all or nothing mentality, your weight loss journey will be way more successful and way more enjoyable. I mean, perfect examples are, those of us, we go on these lifestyle changes all leading up to a trip. We've got this all-inclusive trip coming and here we go, we're getting all ready. We go on the trip, we indulge, and then we feel like we've fallen off the wagon and we have to start fresh again. Or again, you're doing really well. You get up to Christmas holidays, you have a few indulgent meals or more, maybe even days, and you feel like, oh no, I've let it all go. And you give up and you feel like you have to start all over again. Once you start looking at your weight loss journey as something that is going to have its ups and its downs, and you just accept the fact that sometimes the wagon is going to move faster because life is allowing you to get the workouts in and the nutrition. And some days, sometimes the days, weeks, months, it's going to slow down. That's okay. You're still going in the direction of weight loss. And as long as you just accept the fact that you can pick the speed of that wagon up at any moment in time, success will be inevitable. Your weight loss will come off.
And so with that, one of the things we really try and preach, and you'll see this in your Sunday check-ins, and it's something that I learned from my precision nutrition certification, is focusing on the things that you can control. So we break goals down into two types. You have outcome goals and behavior goals. And most people come into a training program with an outcome goal. I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to lose 20 pounds, whatever that outcome might be. Behavior goals are the behaviors that you can control along the way to achieve that. And by adhering to said behaviors, slowly but surely, you're going to get closer and closer to that outcome goal. So when it comes to setting those behavior goals, as an example with our Sunday check-ins, you want to set goals that are attainable. And from there, build on top of them as the weeks go on. And in doing so, as you achieve these goals, you're going to feel great. You're going to build confidence in your abilities. And again, you're going to get closer to those outcome goals. With your outcome goals, it's very important to never set a timeline. Never set a timeline like, I want to lose 15 pounds in X amount of time, because what tends to happen is life, pandemics, whatever it is, work, kids, could be anything. And with that timeline, when you don't achieve those goals in that specific amount of time, things such as frustration, discouragement, abandonment of habits, perhaps abandonment of your program tend to set in. And I've had numerous clients say to me, as soon as I stopped focusing on the number of the scale and started focusing on my habits and behaviors, that's when things ultimately started to click and I started to yield the results that I wanted to see. And one of the things we talk about a lot in our other groups, and we'll talk about in the KDH FC, and we encourage you, excuse me, tickle in my throat. And we encourage you to post about in the group is non-scale victories. And non-scale victories are those achievements that you've achieved with the program that aren't related to the scale. So it could be, I worked out 4 times this week. It's the first time I can ever remember doing that. You'll also see the app will give you little achievement reminders. You got your 10th workout and your 25th workout, things like that, non-scale victories. Perhaps you walked into the closet and you tried something on you haven't worn in 6 months and you felt great in it. Non-scale victory. Perhaps you walked 3 flights of stairs at work and you were less out of breath than you used to be. Non-scale victory. Focusing on these things can be extremely, extremely rewarding as well. And that's one of the things we talked about, your social setting and your environment, sort of celebrating these victories together can really help to build momentum with the program. Because ultimately, what we hope with this program is as you achieve these little achievements individually, collectively, that momentum starts to build and everyone starts to achieve a healthier habit, healthier lifestyle together. So the benefits of diet and exercise and sticking to the process and making it a lifestyle are endless. And we recognize these benefits as non-scale victories, and they'll help to diversify your focus on, yes, perhaps fat loss is one of your goals, but it's only one of many that you are working to achieve. And so we'll conclude with our optimal recipe for success and for fat loss. And so we talked about nutrition, avoiding ultra restrictive diets, making sure that whatever you do, it's sustainable, and prioritize protein, calories, and accountability. In terms of exercise, use the FC program, perform some other activities, make sure you get outside a little bit for your mind. And what you're going to do is you're ultimately going to get stronger, you're going to get leaner, you're going to get more fit, and you're going to build confidence through doing so. And then with mindset, ditch the all or none mentality and really focus on not only those non-scale victories, but that long-term, what you want to see and what you envision in terms of your healthy lifestyle. And if you can combine those 3 things together, which we're going to help you with those programs, as well as providing a supportive community to do so, the results are going to be epic.
So that is it. That is all. If we welcome any questions, if you want to pop them in the chat or unmute yourself, you're welcome to do so. Jake, do you want to put everybody on the screen or?
1 second, I'm working on it here. All right, all right. Go to check the chat. All right, we got nothing on the chat. So if you want to ask us any questions, yeah, go for it.
One thing there was a few questions that have just been hit up to me by a couple of you that I've run into at work. So somebody asks whether they should be including their workout calories into their MyFitnessPal. So as you know, with MyFitnessPal, it will give you your target calories and then it will allow you to add your workout calories. We don't recommend you add your workout calories. I know that's not what you want to hear, but keep your caloric goal as it is and don't include the workout calories. The main reason being for that is most of the time when we burn calories and they're tracked by our Fitbits or our Apple Watches, they're over exaggerated the majority of the time. My watch is screaming at me. And so we suggest that you just keep your target calories as is, and the workout calories are just an extra bonus burn. So that was one question about that. You'll also find that when you set up the MyFitnessPal, it generally gives you much lower calories than what Jake's and My Equation does. MyFitnessPal wants you to buy in, right? So I guarantee out of the 55 of you who sign up, if fat loss is your goal, despite the fact you all weigh differently and you do different things and have different activity levels, I would bet the majority of you are put anywhere between 12 and 1400 as your daily calories. It's a simple form. It's where they put everybody, where we like to, again, make it a little less restrictive. So your calorie targets will be a bit higher. If you find over time you're not losing the weight as you would like to, based on the calories that we've set out for you, then that's where we crunch some numbers and we invite you and, to reach out to me and to Jake or to either one. And we're happy to help you figure out your own specific numbers when it comes to calories and proteins and adjust them as need be.
And so the question about eating before and after your workout, ultimately, it comes down to preference. So again, we want you to focus on the bigger picture and also to what your goal is. But with that, eating before a workout, you want to eat things that make you feel good. Sometimes I've met people who like to eat nothing for 3 hours before they work out, and that's okay. And then we have people who like to eat, like my personal snack will be maybe a Greek yogurt. Sometimes I eat nothing, but it really comes down to preference. And then with your goals, if it's muscle gain, it is important to have, what's the word? A couple protein feedings throughout the day. So 4 or 5 30-gram feedings to optimize your gains. But when it comes to fat loss, it's protein over the course of the entire day. There's not going to be some magical superpower of having protein within 30 minutes. You're not going to lose some of the efforts that you've put into your workouts if you don't have a quick dose of protein right after your workout. It really comes down to what the bigger picture is over the course of the entire day, and also to what you enjoy. So if you don't like eating before a workout because it makes you feel sick, then don't do it. Whereas if you're someone who likes to eat, like I used to, if I was going to have a really heavy workout day, I would eat a big meal before working out, just help to fuel my workout. That's what I felt anyways, but it comes down to preference.
Okay, I have a very hard time getting my protein and I do not enjoy too much meat. What are some high protein foods? Okay. Super common question. And this is something, again, I've been chatting to a few of you about. So hitting protein targets is probably the biggest challenge for most of our members when they first get started. And that's why Jake said it's important not to expect to double. I mean, if you're used to eating 40 or 50 grams of protein a day and now your target's set at 120, we don't expect you to achieve that overnight. We're going to take you through lots of great protein ideas. So tomorrow you're going to be getting a recipe guide. So it's all of Jake's and my favorite recipes that are high protein and calorically wise. So you'll be getting those, and we're going to have lots of posts on protein ideas. But just to answer some questions here for the non-meat lovers. So dairy is a great option for protein. Greek yogurt, Icelandic yogurt actually is the highest, even above Greek. So in one serve, 3/4 of a cup, you're looking at 22 grams. Cheese strings, for those of you that are moms at home, a cheese string has 6 grams of protein, as much as an egg. That's a great option. Things like, and I was talking to Connor about this at the COVID Center today, edamame beans. So you can buy the package of edamame beans in the shell. You can buy them at Costco. One bag, which is a serve, you just put some sea salt on them and enjoy them as a salty snack. One bag has 14 grams of protein. So there's lots of different places to get protein in ways you wouldn't necessarily think. And those are all ideas we're going to be sharing. But this is exactly what's really helpful to post in the group too. So, you know, if anybody has found a high protein source, or you looked at all of a sudden because you're now starting to track and you look at something and go, wow, I had no idea this had so much protein, post it, because this is the information and the kind of sharing that really works well with the group, is sharing different ways that we're all hitting our protein goals. When it comes to protein supplements, so protein shakes, whether it be soy, whey, again, no studies have shown any harm. You can't have too much protein in your diet unless you have, you know, kidney disease. Which, you know, obviously is a different kettle of fish, but I would say the majority of us are perfectly healthy and have perfectly fine kidneys and can handle protein. So if protein supplements are a perfectly fine way to do it, some people find too much in the way of protein supplements can cause some GI upset, some bloating and things like that. So that can minimize people, but if it works for you, then that's perfectly okay too. But lots more on protein to come. It's a work in progress, everybody. It's not something that you're going to get nailed within the first few weeks. The idea is to try to go like an extra 10 grams. You know, if you're eating 50 now, let's try to make it 60 next week and 70 the week after that, in a slow climb. Any other questions? Perfect. I think that's it.
Yeah, so I think we'll conclude by saying, I mean, I'm pretty impressed. 30 participants here tonight is a wicked ratio to show up all at the same time. Super, super pumped about the way things are going. And again, you just want to slowly and steadily build up over time. I really hope you enjoy the workouts. What we've seen happen in the past is, again, that steady build and perhaps new piece of equipment or whatever it might be, adding in those different tricks and tidbits in terms of nutrition. But the one thing that I really encourage you to do is to communicate with your colleagues, your coworkers, and make this experience as fun as possible. Because as you do, you're all just going to build on this together, and it's going to create a really healthy, positive environment at work, which is always extremely important, but perhaps even more so after dealing with everything you've dealt with for the past 11 months. So very excited for the weeks ahead, and thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the KDHFC.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dinner time.